Hello everyone, Novaberg here, and I'm here to talk about the Nintendo Wii U. Oh yes, the failure, as people like to call it. Not everyone calls it that. Fans of the system certainly don't call it that, but the general consensus in the gaming fraternity like to pun the term failure around very easily for the Wii U. And I'm going to explain to you why I don't think it's a failure, personally, to me. Now, I'm not going to focus on the figures because clearly I'm going to lose that argument. The Wii U has sold almost 14 million units in a just over 4-year period. It's November 2012 to the end of January 2017. So it had a 4-year and a bit stint. To put that in comparison to other consoles, for instance, which are now considered collector's items, which are now considered classics, which are now considered cult favourites. And I don't ever recall, one of these certainly was termed the word failure, and I thought it was unfair back then. I think the word failure should be specially assigned to certain consoles which are obviously failure, not just on a performance level, but also on sales performance level, but also on game library and other things. People will give you your arguments of why the Wii U failed, and they'll say things like the name. We'll touch on that. They'll also say things like the game library, third-party developers. Now, I've said this myself, it did need more third-party support, and I always thought the IPs, the primary IP, should have came out a lot earlier for it, and it should have had more of them as well, like the F-Zeros and other Nintendo-ish franchises that are not necessarily Nintendo, but more associated with Nintendo than anything else, like the Metroids of this world and the Mega Mans of this world. Yeah, we got Mighty Number 9, but we all know that ended, on a shallow note. But I'm going to talk about its positives. We're not going to talk about the figures. Yes, the figures are disappointing. Nintendo wanted to ship about 100 million units. They got nowhere near that. No, they got just over 10% of that. On the other hand, of course, they wanted to ship 50 million units or so of the GameCube. Only managed 22 mil, just under 22 mil of that in a 6-year period. Because the GameCube was around about for 6 years. Now, so the lifespan of the Wii U, 4 years. It's not the worst innings at all, by a long shot. Many other consoles have not even lasted that long. The Saturn, for instance. No, not the Saturn. The Dreamcast, sorry. The Dreamcast didn't last that long. It was 3 years, I think, for the Dreamcast. Does anyone call the Dreamcast a failure? People might have called it a failure at the time, but they don't consider it a failure now. They consider it extremely innovative, advanced, quite imaginative. The controller, the UMD, sorry, that's the wrong system, that's a PSP. The thing that goes inside, the UID, something like that. It games on the go, internet capability, keyboard, all these things put the Dreamcast in a sort of cult, look back on it, favoured kind of system that people collect for, like with the Saturn as well. Saturn was notorious for programming for, and people say it didn't do well, and they termed the Saturn as a failure. The Saturn shifted just under 10 million units, 9.2 units in its 7-year period. Was it a 7-year period? I've got my notes down here. It was a 6-year period, apologies, going from its Japanese availability. The Dreamcast, 10 mil. So, both of them are failures, I guess, if you're going to chuck around the figures. But anyway, let's not talk about figures, because I don't think it's about figures. I don't think it's about sales figures at all. You can't fairly compare it to the PS4 and the Xbox One. Initially it was, when the Xbox One first came out, it was ahead. PS4 just took off into the stratosphere, didn't it? Now, I like to think I'm not partisan. Some people are now, I've noticed, especially this year for some reason, last year, have become so partisan about their favourite system, and the bile that sometimes spread about a rival system is pretty embarrassing, to be honest. This is the kind of stuff that I used to do in the school ground about Sega and Spectrum. I kind of realised the error of my ways as I grow up. So, I don't know, is this just teenagers still being this partisan-like? Maybe, the fanboys? People, there's always a fanboy in all of us, I've always said before, in previous videos, but, I quite put that aside. Of course, I favour Nintendo. Of course I favour Amstrad. I will always favour them, but I'll see the bigger picture, and I'll if it's broke, if it's broke, I will say it's broke. And I don't think the Wii U was broke. Lots of people or other YouTubers have said that they preferred the Wii U massively over the Wii. Now the Wii shifted over 100 million units. It was massively popular for the casual gaming market. Wii U, you have to forget, people forget that the Wii U is 100% backward compatible with the Wii. It even switches into a Wii, turns into a Wii as well. So it does everything the Wii could do. It plays all the games the Wii could do. It has all the peripherals the Wii has. Not many systems are that compatible with backwards catalogue. I mean, that is 100%. As far as I'm aware, it's 100%. I have never come across a Wii game that I can't play on a Wii U. So that's one thing. Massively family friendly the system is. I'm going to be scattergunning this. I'm sorry. I'm just going. My ideas are just jumping because I really feel I need to. I'm not defending Nintendo. Don't get me wrong, people, because I know people are probably going to give me shit in the comments over this, but I don't care because I want to have my say on the Wii U. I think it gets treated very unfairly. And now that it's gone and the Switch is here, which, by the way, is, after its initial fanfare, problems, it seems to be technical problems all over the place with the Switch. But, we're not talking about the Switch, we're talking about the Wii U, which, in effect, as people have said, it is the first attempt at the gamepad tablet style idea. And I think it did it quite well. I don't think a lot of games utilised it, and I do think it was difficult for third parties especially to port games over to it because of the extra screen, the extra memory it uses, and the different kind of coding you've got to do for that. I understand that, I do. But look at the first year of the Wii U. It had FIFAs, NBA, Assassin's Creed 3 and 4, Call of Duties. It had all that, Splinter Cell, Mass Effect. These are third parties that are on other systems, and Resident Evil, Resident Evil Revelations, for instance. They came out in the first year or so of the Wii U. So it did have them initially. Yes, they dropped off. But it still had that initially. So it still got them games, and they're pretty good versions. I mean, Black Flag is a good version. It's a really good version of it. I've played the PS4 version and the Wii U version. They play the same for me. They really do. Am I missing something? I'm not sure. So, yes, the catalogue is not there, but I don't think it's about that. You've got some third parties. You've got some, especially, you've got Call of Duty's on there. You've got a free network. The Switch is going to charge for the Nintendo network. The Nintendo didn't charge for the network at all. Yes, you're going to argue straight away that their download games are quite expensive, as are the virtual console games. Yes, they are, but the network's still free. You're not subscribed to the network. You get it with the system. You're not paying a premium like you do with PS Plus or Xbox Live Arcade. Okay? You're not doing that. Yes, you get free stuff with PS Plus. Yes, I know, but you're not really paying for that either, are you? That's just the bonus of the subscription. You're still paying through the nose for a subscription. With Nintendo, you weren't doing that, which unfortunately you will be now, apparently, according to the rumours, with the Switch. So these are all benefits, these are all pluses. Now let's look at the real world things. The gamepad it's robust. It's quite hard wearing for what it is. It's something that looks very delicate. It's really quite hard wearing. It's bloody comfortable. I don't care what anyone says. If the person says, oh, that gamepad's ungainly and it's horrible, you've got to have giant hands for it, well, they clearly haven't picked it up and held it or played a game with it. That's as far as I'm concerned, because I thought that initially when I first saw the unit. I play tested it 3 or so years back in an Argos, and I thought that thing looks uncomfortable. Held it, wow, really comfortable. Button layout, really comfortable. Good quality sticks. It's reliable as well. As far as I'm aware, for something that should basically lose connectivity nearly all the time because it's the Wi-Fi technology that it uses, Bluetooth technology, something like that, it's really reliable. I think it's quite reliable. Battery life people complained about. Well, it's doing a lot of stuff. That gamepad's doing a lot of stuff. So you don't expect it to have a massive battery life, but it did have 2 hours or so, and you can plug the damn thing in anyway. So it's not the end of the world, is it? Not really the end of the world. People are going to find this with the Switch as well. They really are. And how many times do I see hardcore gamers with PS4s, 3s, Xbox 360s and so on and forth, with their controllers plugged into the USB? Because they need to power them. So controllers just lose power. I don't see why people get so upset about this. I really don't. Now let's get on to the name. People say that the Wii U is a silly name. Maybe it is, but ain't Nintendo just done this forever? They've always done this. Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Pretty similar names, yeah? Right? Yes, obviously there are two different systems. Very clearly to that, and that's one thing maybe Nintendo did not make so clear. Was it an add-on for the Wii or an upgrade from the Wii? The next step. They didn't make that clear. Granted, I give you that. I've said that myself in the past. But if you're just looking at the name, it's just what Nintendo have always done. They've gone Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. N64, a bit of a unique one, Nintendo 64, but still got the word Nintendo in it. How about the Game Boy range? Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Micro, Game Boy Advance. Same name, just with a different tag on the end. DS, DSi, 3DS, 2DS. The same thing. That was very camp, that, wasn't it? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You know, that's what they do. Their names are very similar for all different they're different systems. You can't put a Game Boy Advance cartridge in a Game Boy. But, you know, this is not I don't think the name was a big issue. It's a crap name. I'm not saying it's a good name. I'm just saying I don't think it's a massive issue to say, oh, they should have named it, I don't know, the Wonder Tablet or something like that. I don't know. Wii U, I don't know. It's just like saying DS, DSi or DS, 3DS. All they're doing is putting another look, DS, 3DS. All they've done is exactly with the Wii and Wii U, just added a character. That's all they've done. They've done it before. They've always done it. And I don't see why people get a massive hoo-ha over it. The game library, I've touched on this already. The primary IPs always should have come out first, but look at the primary IPs they have on the system. Mario Kart 8 is absolutely fantastic, and if you don't agree with that, you have to play it. You really do. Splatoon is a fantastic twist on a shoot 'em up game, on a third-person sort of first-person shoot 'em up perspective without all the death and destruction, and it's just fucking fun. It really is just fun and quite reliable as well on the network if you've got a good stable broadband. Then you've got other IP. You've got all the Mario games. I mean, Super Mario 3D World, fan-fucking-tastic. You've got Smash 4, brilliant, massive action-packed stuff. You know, I'm not going to say all. I mean, Super Mario Brothers U. Yes, okay. Basically, it's a rehashed version of Super Mario Brothers, new Super Mario Brothers Wii, but it's still bloody good. It's still good. Mario Party 10, great for kids. Brilliant for family games. The Wii U, just like the Wii before it, is brilliant for families. Brilliant for party games. They'll switch. They're doing the same thing with the Switch. They're saying they're continuing that sort of community, local multiplayer stuff, which I really like, by the way. It's always better than online multiplayer, by far. But it was fully compatible for that. You get the Sports Connection. You've got Sports Club, which is basically Wii Sports 3. You know, it's good fun. It doesn't have to be mind-blowing, but it was stable and it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people did as well. It's just unique. It's a unique system, and I think people give it a lot of slagging off now. Some things are credible. Some arguments are credible, and I will say, yes, you're correct. Things like third-party support. I won't have it about the name. I mean, I think the name is a silly argument. And the gamepad, there we go. The gamepad, there's no reason to ever go at the gamepad. It's fine. You've also got, you've got this, the Pro Controller, which is essentially a 360 controller, more or less, with this, this swapped around. Comfortable, works, nice. Good battery life on that too. And all the Wiimotes and all the other peripherals and everything else. More exclusives you got on it. You can't play these games on any other platform. Fast Racing Neo, absolutely amazing game. Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze. Star Fox Zero, people don't like the control system. It's an experimental thing to use a control system like that. I get that. It is difficult to master. But the concept of Star Fox Zero is really good. The graphics are amazing. The visuals are brilliant. The sound is good. Maybe the voice acting's a bit shit. But you can't have everything in life, can you? Bayonetta 2. Outstanding game. All power for the women and all that kind of thing, Just, It's good stuff. And I don't understand why people turn this word failure. A failure would be, as much as I love the system, the 3DO, 2 million units sold, massively expensive. The Wii U wasn't that expensive. Not really. Not at all. It was cheaper than the bloody other two. That's a failure. The CDI, again, huge failure. No games on it. No games on it. My system that I really, really love, I know it's a fucking failure. I admit it's a failure. Jigsaw 1000 was a fucking flop. I like to call it the most famous flop, the most infamous flop, should we say. You know, I can see a failure. I know a failure. One of my favourite systems is a failure. The Wii U isn't. I know this is becoming a little bit of a hysterical rant here, but I'm just thinking about all the things I've read and people's comments about it, and I think it just gets a bad rep. And people really need to experience it. They really need to try it out. Feel that gamepad in your hand. Play some of the games that you can't play on anything else, like the Splatoons of this world, like the Mario games on it. Mario Smash Tennis is really fun. It's just a tennis game, people are going to say, but it's just a really fun tennis game that you can't get on any platform. It's up there with Super Tennis, again, Nintendo exclusive, you know. And I'm not trying to suck off Nintendo here. I really am not. I'm just, you know, they're having problems with it. They've had problems with the Wii U. I've just talked about them. They're having problems with the Switch now, and I know some of their business practices are shit. I know that I don't do gameplay of full-screen gameplay videos of Nintendo games because they'll smack me and take away my ad revenue, or just give me a copyright notice or something like that. That's why I don't even do it. So I know that sometimes they're full of shit. I know that. I'm fully aware of that, but I just don't think the Wii U gets the credit it deserves for being such a unique system. I guarantee you, in years to come, people look back at the Wii U and think that was a unique piece of kit, because it is a unique piece of kit. Nothing ever did something like it tried to do. This twin sort of part console. It was very interesting. And when the gamepad was utilised in games like, you know, to a degree Splatoon, but Nintendo Land, which was the demo game essentially, but Zombie U used it really well in Zombie U, and people just bypass Zombie U like it never. You know what? It's a bloody brilliant survival horror game. It really is, and it's a unique game as well. And then you got the Shovel Knights of this world, and all the exclusive download ones that are Teslagrad and things like that. Brilliant, and Teslagrad was ported to others afterwards. But yeah, it just brings me down when I read these shitty comments about it. The word failure makes it sound like it's shit, and you actually do get people say, "Oh, it's shit." No, it's not. No, it's not. Even if something is a failure, why does it term it definitely as shit? But that is an entirely perspective, subjective view. Take them subjective glasses off and try and have a bit of perspective and say, what are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? Is it really that bad? Like with every other system I've ever done, I used to call the Spectrum shit because it was, the graphics were all monochrome a lot of the time, and you had colour clashing, and it was the original system just didn't have a joystick port and things like that. I grew up and I saw that the speed of the games, the quality of the programming, the gameplay that came with Spectrum games. I learned, educated myself. I don't slag the Spectrum off. Still have a bit of fun nowadays. I have more fun slagging the Commodore off as a bit of fun. But I know that's got some strong stuff behind it. It really has, and fantastic 8-bit music. Now I'm digressing here, but these are examples I'm trying to give about. I wouldn't turn around and say that's shit because I think it's shit. Reasons. I want reasons why you think that's shit. Give me reasons. Have a discussion. And that doesn't seem to happen with the Wii U. People are so determined to just write it off and say it's a load of bollocks, and that's that. PS4 is king. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But, you know, PS4 is great. I've got PS4. I've got Wii U as well. I love them both. They're both great systems. And the Wii U at the moment is still my most played system, because it's got, for the games it has got, most of them are bloody good. There are some turkeys on there. There are some turkeys on the PS4 and 3. There are some turkeys on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One, and so on and so forth. You know, even the Vita. Are people? I mean, I could be wrong on this, but are people calling the Vita a failure? I think they are, and I would defend that. I would defend the Vita and say it's sold, I think, 15 mil units and still going now. I'm not sure whether they're still continuing with it, but they're calling the Vita a failure. But it's such an impressive machine. to hold, to feel, to play with, the games on it, very, very, very impressive. So I wouldn't call it a failure for them reasons. Now, if you had a system that basically had nothing but shovelware on it, and nothing was like the GX 4000, for instance, half the formats, or half the games shovelware, Amstrad CPC boards, and then you had one or two games that were real diamonds, like it is, doesn't support itself. You can't say that's a great machine because it hasn't got the backing of it. Now, I know, I love it personally, but I know in the eyes of anybody who's realistic, it was a failure. And the same goes for the 3DO, and the same goes for the CDI, and the same goes for the Jaguar. Even though it's got a brilliant version of Doom on it, it's still a failure for a multitude of reasons. And the Wii U just doesn't hit all those reasons. You can point to the sales and say it's a failure in terms of sales for Nintendo. Fine. If you want to do that, I agree with you. It's a failure in terms of sales. But in terms of the quality of game that you get on it, for the games that you do have on it, the first-person IPs, the exclusives, the uniqueness, the aesthetic appeal of it, what it tries to do and what it gives you, the feedback, especially for a family gaming system. I mean, maybe for a hardcore gamer, this is what I've always said. If you're a hardcore gamer and have a family, like me, then have both systems. I know sometimes that might not be possible on a budget and all that kind of stuff. Then you just got to weigh up the pros and cons, haven't you? You do get family games on the PS4, and there's considerable more of them on the PS4 than there was on the PS3, to be fair. So, yeah, sorry, bit of a rant there, but those are my reasons why I don't think the Wii U should be called a failure. It shouldn't be called a success. It should be called a unique, interesting, and memorable system. I think just like the GameCube and the Saturn and the Dreamcast, people look back on it and think, that weren't bad. That weren't bad, and it gave me some enjoyment. And it gave my family enjoyment. And there's some really good games on that. And it's worth collecting. And just worth to be part of your game collection if you like your systems, and which I do. If I swung the camera around, you'd be able to see all the systems on against the wall there. I'm not going to do that because I'll fuck the tripod up. But anyway, over there, PS3s, Mega Drive, Master System. Master System, by the way, official figures, not including the Brazil figures and South American figures, official figures sold up to 14 mil. Master System. Does anybody call the Master System a failure? No, they fucking don't. I know, different time, different place. Amstrad CPC, 3 million units shifted. Spectrum, 5 million units shifted. Compared to the Commodore, both of them were absolutely annihilated. The Commodore 64 sold tens of millions because of the American market. Does anybody call the Spectrum and the Amstrad failures? No, they don't. They do not. Now, you might get some snarky Spectrum fans calling the Amstrad a failure, but it wasn't. No one in their right mind in the retro gaming sphere calls it a failure, like they would. Because if you do, you'd have to call the Spectrum that as well. And people are still developing games for both systems, and they've both got massive, strong fan bases that stretch beyond, say, for instance, the fan bases of some of these consoles of bygone years. But anyway, digressing completely. What do you think? Please leave a comment in the comments box. I know this is probably going to generate a bit of discussion. But that's my feelings on it. And I do love the Wii U. I think it's a great system. It should be heralded in the future as something that was brave for Nintendo to do. And they made mistakes, and it's a shame they made their mistakes. But then again, Sega made mistakes, and Sony have made mistakes, and so have Microsoft. All of them are guilty of it at some point in their gaming life. But it wasn't their biggest mistake. Their biggest mistake is always the Virtual Boy. End of subject. That is a failure. Nintendo's failure, the Virtual Boy. That's it. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening to my rant. Honestly, I'm not sucking off Nintendo. I'm really not. It's just, like I said, the Virtual Boy. Like, that's shit. I don't know. I actually won't call it. I call it a failure in terms of what I know about it, but I've never actually played it, so I won't call it shit because then I'd be a total hypocrite, wouldn't I? See how that works? Thanks. Comment, please respond, like, share, and all the above. Novabug out.